You will hear a podcast interview about intermittent fasting in 2 parts. Before each part, you will have time to read the questions. You will hear each part once. Now look at questions 1 to 5. You have 30 seconds to read the questions. Now listen and answer questions 1 to 5.
Welcome back to Health in Context, the podcast where we examine popular health claims and ask what the evidence actually tells us. Today, we are discussing intermittent fasting. It is often presented online as a simple way to lose weight, improve energy, and even prevent disease. However, the reality appears to be more complicated. To help us separate reliable information from exaggerated claims, I am joined by Professor Daniel Harris, a researcher in nutrition and metabolic health. Professor Harris, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Emma. It is a pleasure to join you.
Let us begin with the basics. When people hear the term intermittent fasting, many immediately think of the 16 to 8 method. What exactly does that involve?
The 16 to 8 method involves fasting for 16 hours and consuming all meals within an 8-hour eating window. For example, someone might eat between midday and 8 in the evening, then avoid food until midday the following day. However, this is only one version. Some people follow a 12-hour overnight fast, while others use a 14-hour fasting period. There are also more extreme approaches, but longer fasting does not automatically mean better results.
So, someone who is new to fasting should not necessarily begin with 16 hours.
Exactly. A 12-hour overnight period is often a more realistic starting point. For instance, a person could finish dinner at 8 in the evening and have breakfast at 8 the next morning. That may sound less impressive on social media, but it is often easier to maintain. The best method is not always the strictest one. It is usually the one that is both safe and sustainable.
Many supporters claim that intermittent fasting changes the metabolism. Is that accurate?
Partly, but the phrase changes. The metabolism is often used too vaguely. The body certainly reacts when food is unavailable for several hours. It begins using stored energy, and hormone levels may change. However, each person's metabolic response can be different. Some people feel focused and energetic during a fasting period. Others become tired, irritable, or unable to concentrate. These differences may be influenced by sleep, stress, age, activity level, medical history, and even the timing of the fast.
What about claims that fasting improves blood sugar?
There is some evidence that time-restricted eating may support blood sugar regulation and improve insulin sensitivity in certain individuals. In simple terms, this means the body may become more effective at moving glucose from the bloodstream into the cells. However, the effect is not universal. Fasting is not a cure for diabetes, and it should never replace medication or professional treatment. In fact, people who use blood sugar-lowering medication need to be particularly cautious because long periods without food could cause dangerous drops in glucose.
Some listeners may assume that fasting leads to weight loss because the body burns significantly more energy. Is that what happens?
Not usually. In many cases, people lose weight because the shorter eating period reduces their overall caloric intake. If someone normally eats breakfast, lunch, dinner, and several late-night snacks, removing the evening snacks may reduce the total amount of energy they consume. But there is an important exception. Some people become so hungry during the fast that they later eat very large meals to compensate for the food they missed. In that case, their total intake may remain the same or even increase.
So, fasting for 16 hours does not help much if someone eats continuously during the remaining 8.
Precisely. Timing matters, but meal quality and portion size still matter as well. An 8-hour eating window filled with highly processed snacks is not automatically healthier than a normal eating routine containing balanced meals.
That is the end of the first part. You now have 20 seconds to check your answers.
How important is consistency? Do people need to follow the same schedule every day?
Now look at questions 6 to 15. You have 30 seconds to read the questions. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 15.
Let us now consider how intermittent fasting is presented online and some of the practical difficulties people may experience. Hunger seems to be one of the biggest concerns. Does fasting improve a person's ability to control hunger?
It may improve appetite regulation for some people because the body becomes accustomed to a regular schedule. They may stop eating out of boredom and become more aware of genuine hunger signals. However, the opposite can also happen. A highly restrictive routine may make someone think about food constantly. If a person ignores hunger for many hours, they may lose touch with normal signals of hunger and fullness. This is why satiety is important. Satiety is the feeling of being comfortably full after a meal. Foods rich in protein, fiber, and healthy fats generally produce longer-lasting fullness than sugary drinks or refined snacks.
Does that mean the first meal after a fast should be especially nutritious?
Yes, breaking a fast with a balanced meal can help prevent rapid hunger later. A meal containing vegetables, whole grains, protein, and healthy fats is more likely to support stable energy. A common mistake is to focus entirely on the clock while ignoring nutritional quality. If someone eats only a narrow range of foods, there's a risk of a nutrient deficiency. Fasting does not remove the body's need for vitamins, minerals, protein, or essential fats.
Who should be especially careful with intermittent fasting?
Several groups should avoid experimenting without medical advice. Fasting may be contraindicated for pregnant or breastfeeding women, children and teenagers who are still growing, and people taking certain medications. It may also be unsuitable for individuals who are predisposed to migraines, fainting, low blood pressure, or low blood sugar. This does not mean that every person in these groups will experience a problem, but their risk may be higher. Most importantly, people with a current or previous history of disordered eating should approach fasting with great caution. Strict rules about when eating is permitted can sometimes increase anxiety, guilt, secrecy, or cycles of restriction and overeating.
That is interesting because fasting is often promoted as a way to gain control.
Yes, but control and health are not always the same thing. A routine may appear disciplined from the outside while creating an unhealthy relationship with food. If someone refuses to attend social events because eating outside their chosen hours causes panic, the routine may no longer be supporting well-being. Similarly, if breaking the schedule leads to guilt or self-punishment, that is a warning sign.
How important is consistency? Do people need to follow the same schedule every day?
Consistency can help, but perfect adherence is not necessary. Some people follow a fasting schedule on weekdays, but eat more flexibly at weekends. Others adjust their eating window around work, exercise, or family commitments. A plan should fit into a person's life, not force the person to reorganize their entire life around the plan. If a routine damages sleep, relationships, concentration, or emotional health, it is unlikely to be sustainable in the long term.
Some online influencers claim that eating breakfast stops fat burning. Is there evidence for that?
That is an oversimplification. Skipping breakfast may suit some adults, but it is not automatically healthier. Other people perform better when they eat in the morning, especially if they exercise early or need strong concentration at work. Interestingly, some research suggests that an earlier eating window may support the body's natural daily rhythm better than eating late at night. For example, eating between 9 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon may have certain metabolic advantages, but this schedule is socially difficult for many people. They may want to eat dinner with their families or meet friends in the evening. A theoretically perfect plan is not very useful if adherence is extremely low.
So, convenience also plays a role.
Absolutely. Health advice often fails because it ignores real life. A person may understand the scientific argument, but still be unable to follow the plan because of shift work, childcare, cultural habits, or social responsibilities.
Before we finish, what advice would you give to someone who is considering intermittent fasting?
First, ask why you want to try it. Is the aim to reduce late-night snacking, create a clearer routine, or improve general health? Those are more realistic goals than trying to detox the body or completely reset the metabolism. Second, begin gradually. A 12-hour overnight fast may be enough to test how your body reacts. Pay attention to mood, concentration, sleep, energy, digestion, and hunger. Third, do not use fasting to compensate for an unhealthy diet. The quality of food still matters. Finally, consult a qualified professional if you have a medical condition, take regular medication, or have experienced disordered eating. Intermittent fasting may be useful for some people, but it is not suitable for everyone.
Professor Harris, thank you for giving us such a balanced explanation.
Thank you, Emma. It was a pleasure.
That is the end of the second part. You now have 20 seconds to check your answers.